Today we are with Mrs. Martha Teeter Meredith at her home in Rowan County. It's April 1st, 2006, and thank you for talking with us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about what your life was like that you remember in the early days here in this area. And then we'd also like to talk a little bit about your military experience. So tell us a little bit about what it was like living in this area.
Well, it was just like any other country upbringing. You had the whole farm to ramble around in, and that's what you did. I spent more time climbing the trees than I did inside the house. And that's just what country life is. And as I grew, of course, I changed, and I love it out here. I always did enjoy living here, and I couldn't wait to get back. So it's been a good experience for me all my lifetime.
Now you mentioned to us a little bit about your father taking some produce into Mooresville.
Yes, he always planted a big garden, and he also planted, of course, he planted in the fields. And he would gather his produce in and put it in baskets and get in a wagon, 2-horse wagon, mostly on Saturdays. And I usually would get right up there with him, and we'd ride to Mooresville in that 2-horse wagon with that produce. And he'd get on the streets, and once the people knew he was there, they were out there waiting for him. And he sold produce. He always raised good food, and I enjoyed that. Barefooted, never had any shoes. I had one pair of shoes a year in my whole life until I got married, I reckon. I won't say that long, no, because... But anyway, when I was small, he would buy one pair of shoes for us, and he had a shoelace that he used, and if we wore the soles out, he just put new soles on them, and we still wore them. But like I say, it was a good life. We were not rich by any means, but there was always plenty to eat, and we enjoyed it.
Now when you went to school, did you walk to school, or?
When I first started school, it light down here below was about a mile, and that's where I walked. And I think you've talked with Lurley McNeely, haven't you? Out here at the church?
Yes, we talked to her.
Yeah. Did she mention Robin talk with her?
I didn't talk with her.
Yes, she made. I'm not sure who she went with.
Well, we used to walk to school together. And like kids are, we used to fight like cats and dogs. But we got over it. And we're the best of friends today. But anyway, that was just one of those things that goes along with it. As we got older, they put the bus on the road. Bill drove buses from here to Landis and out in the surrounding areas, picking up the children out in the country to take them into school. So we all finished high school at Landis. I started when I was in the 5th grade, I think.
What time of day would you go to school, and what time would you get home?
Well, it was early, about 7 o'clock in the morning when we left, but we'd get in about 4. It was just a long day. But kids don't mind that kind of thing.
What was your day like on the farm? When you got back from school, did you have chores? Did you have things that you needed to do as part of the family?
Sometimes we'd go to the field and help to pick, like you say, the beans and pick up potatoes. Now, the big thing was we grew a lot of cotton here. And when it come time for cotton, we stayed home. We didn't go to school because we had these fields all around here.
So cotton was your main crop?
Right. That's where Daddy got his mainstay. And take it to Mooresville to the mill, up to the place where and he'd get his cotton.
Did it go from field to field to field, or did each farm take care of its own cotton?
We took care of our own. Of course, why not? There were 10 of us children, and we all could get out and get on our knees with a sack and pick cotton. Except I always find excuses. He figured I was kind of lazy anyway.
When when you were living here as a young child, on wash days and things like that, did you have a wringer washer? How did you wash your clothes?
When I was small, we had 3 tubs on a board out in the backyard. We had a well that was dug. The well is still there, by the way, where you turn the thing and bring the water up. And Mama had a wash pot, and we'd get boiling water, 2 pots, and those wash tubs, and we'd all go out and spend one day washing. It took a lot of clothes to keep it halfway clean around the farm, but that was just to be accepted.
Let me back up and ask you something else about when you went with your dad on the wagon into town to sell vegetables. What kind of vegetables did you sell?
Well, he had sweet potatoes. There was a time when he had sweet potatoes. There was a time when he had just regular potatoes. And he had green beans, black-eyed peas, cabbage, anything like that you find in a garden. And we had bottom land down here that was real rich, and he'd go down and plant his vegetables, some of them down there that he wanted to use to take into town, and that's the way he made his living. And he had molasses cane that he had took to a mill over here, not far from here, and had ground and squeezed the molasses and had it cooked out. Loved his molasses, and he ate them with butter for breakfast as long as he lived. He just made. Well, I think we had a 50-gallon drum down there when he died, and but he always liked his molasses. Anything else, he didn't care about it.
So then jumping ahead just a little bit now. When did you decide to go in the military? What brought that on?
Well, after I left high school, Sister Mary, she was the intelligent one in this family, let's put it that way. She had gone to high school, worked her way through school. She started out, I think, in the dime store in Mooresville, and she worked also for Rayla's. And she eventually started a little shop of her own. She did crochet work, that kind of thing. And Sister Frances helped her. And so that's the way she made her living. But anyway, she got her education at Florida McDonald. She went 4 years. And then she did home demonstration work. She finished in home economics. And so that's what she did for a living.
So we're talking about your sister who did some home demonstration type of work, and we're leading into how you joined the military.
I was in school at WC in Greensboro in my 3rd year. Started the 2nd semester. The war started, and I said, I'm going home, and I'm going into service. And my parents had a fit. I only had not even a whole year for finishing. And I said, no, I'm going. And my daddy, that's the first time I ever saw him shed a tear. He just didn't want me to go. He didn't like that idea. But I went anyway. I was 21 now, and then I had my own say. So I went into service, and I joined the Marine Corps. Irene went with me to sign up, and for several weeks, and had to go to Salisbury to catch the train. And all the way from here to New York, they were stopping and picking up women for service for the Marine Corps. And we spent months up there at Hunter College. That was our first experience with it. And when they finally gave us uniforms, those green uniforms, we put them on. And I'm 5 foot, I was 5'1.5", and I'm now about 5 foot, I think. And that thing came down here. And I thought, Lord help. So they weren't long getting that thing off of me and getting him cutting it off. And but anyway, we stayed up there about a month. We had classes and we learned to get our marching in and things like that. And then we came back to Jacksonville. Same way with the same kind of train. They always said that the soldiers' trains were the slowest things on earth. Stopped at every pig stop. So I stayed there for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, I guess. And then I went back to Washington, D.C., Arlington, Virginia, actually. And at that time, that's where the cemetery is, you know. That time, they put us over on one side of that cemetery, and we could sit and put barracks for the women. Excuse me. And I could stand in my barracks window and watch all the soldiers that were being buried coming. You know how they came with their white horses and their wagons and the coffins and the flag draped caskets. And you know that can get to you. And I was there, I guess, for about maybe 6 months. And they brought me back to Cherry Point. That's when they decided what they'd do with me, I guess. All this other time, they were just getting me into it. When I came back, they put me into this business. It's the front gate where you go in to the base. And I had about 10 girls working for me. And we had all kinds of trucks coming on the base with supplies and that kind of thing. And you don't get on a military base without a pass and without somebody that knows what they're doing. Make sure that there was a girl with every truck. Sometimes they'd be out for a whole day with the supplies truck. But it was my responsibility to make sure that they had somebody with them to watch them in case of sabotage. Now that makes sense, doesn't it? So that was my responsibility. And I did that until I got out. And it was interesting.
Now, when did you get out?
In 1940, June the 23rd.
And what did you do afterwards?
Well, J.D., in the meantime, I had met J.D. at the main gate. He was sergeant of the guard at the main gate. Nobody got in that gate unless he said so. And it was the funniest thing. The first time I saw him, it was at the main gate. But they always left they always had to have cards, big cards in trucks, you know, when they went down to let people know who they were and that they were in there for a purpose. And they'd pick him up at his office as he went to the gate. And then they'd come by my place and get someone to go with them, MP, you might say. And so I would go up and get the cards. But anyway, I went up there to use the phone for something. And he says, "You don't come in this place." I said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "I'm just as much involved as you are with this." He says, "I'm sergeant of this guard and nobody comes in this office. You just get right out of here." I said, "You get right on the telephone and call Captain Theroux and tell him that I need to make a call." And he did. And that ended it. But that's where I met him. That's how I got to know him. And so his dad bought him a car, a little one-seated Ford. When he came back from overseas, he had been overseas for 3 years. And so you couldn't get gas, you know, that much. So the trucks would come by, and the truck drivers, Bambi was one of them, that supplied cakes and pies and cookies and that kind of thing. And those drivers would give me tickets for gas. I'd go out there and I'd say, now I want to go home. I hadn't been home such and such a time. How about let me have one of your gas tickets? And 9 times out of 10, they'd give me one. So I got the gas ticket. And he had the car. And when we had weekends off, he'd bring me here to my home, and he'd go on to Anderson, South Carolina, where he was lived. And that's how we got together. So, along towards the end, I guess we dated each other about 6 or 7 months, and we decided we were just going to tie the knot, and we did, down in Greenville, South Carolina. So, I'll tell you, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was just something different all the time.
Now, when you came back, how were you treated when you came back from the military? Were you treated any different, do you think, or
I don't think so.
people more patriotic at that point in time?
No, they weren't. They didn't seem to be. I came back, and Irene and Brother John and were both involved with Cascade at that time. Do you remember Cascade at all?
Cascade Mills?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And J.D. and I moved into Mooresville. We bought a house over on Statesville Avenue. And we both worked at Cascade. He worked there 27 years on the 3rd shift. And that was a long time. But,
and you worked at Cascade also?
yeah, I worked at Cascade also, except I worked the 1st shift. And so we came out, we didn't move out here until after Mom and Dad passed away. And we bought the farm and moved out here, and goodness only knows. I tell you, the boys, Jerry was 11 at the time, and Don was 4 when we moved out here. And I didn't want them running around on the streets uptown. I'd been in the country all my life, and goodness knows you can find enough to get into out here. But they enjoyed it thoroughly. But little old Don, bless his heart, he had a friend down the road. And the friend would come up and he said, Mama, we're going down to the creek to see if we can catch some crayfish. I said, all right. Come to find out, 9 times out of 10, there's a pond over here on this side. That's where they ended up. And I got to spank their little backsides for that. But we were lucky they didn't get into trouble. But anyway, we enjoyed it, and the kids enjoyed it too. Don right now has just bought him a new tractor. And he's got, but they're going to put trees for one thing, they're going to put pines out here. But I don't know, they'll have some. We have a bottom, it's about 25 acre bottom down there. It's good land for hay and that kind of thing.
You had mentioned that this house was built in 1917 by your grandfather?
By my dad.
By your dad.
I don't know, I was a big girl. I can remember sitting, we had a fireplace in this room and the room across from it. And I can remember sitting in there with a firelight, with a candle, doing my homework. And we used to take onions, big old onions, and put them in the hot ashes. And they're good.
What did you wrap them in?
Leaves. And sometimes we just put them in there in the coals. And it baked them, and they were delicious. That's what we did at night when we needed something to do.
So you just peeled off the outside crusty part and ate the innards?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was good. Oh, we had lots of little old things we did when we were kids. We did the same thing with sweet potatoes. We'd put them in the ashes and bake them, and they were delicious like that.
I bet they were.
They were. And the lights came on. The lights came later. I don't know. I can't remember. Well, I remember too when Dad put them in, but it was, I was not very old. I know that much. I was just a little thing.
It's kind of unusual to me to meet a veteran who is a female. There weren't that many women that were actually in the armed services, were there?
Well, let's see. There were not too many Marines in the beginning. I think I was in about the first group. Now you know, I cannot remember my Marine Corps number any day of the week, and it was 750045, so it's not worth. And
after you were discharged, did you what kind of benefits did you receive?
I did not know that I received any benefits.
Like any kind of, were you entitled to medical care or
No,
GI Bill? Or?
We had a choice. Now I went to Charlotte Business School on a GI Bill. Other than that, that's all. As far as medical concerned, no, I had my insurance where I worked, and I didn't get medical insurance. I'll tell you something. Well, maybe I'm not. This is going to be on tape.
Do you want me to turn it off?
When you were in the military, in Arlington, Virginia, and Cherry Point and other places, how were you treated by the male soldiers? Did they ignore you?
Oh, they were just part of the family.
So they respected you
Right. Right.
and your position?
Right.
So you didn't go overseas. You spent your time stateside.
Stateside. I wanted to go overseas so bad, and they wouldn't send me. That's always the way it goes.
While we're still talking about the military, talk to us about Pat's Cafe.
Pat's Cafe. Oh, I like it up there.
Tell us where it is and what goes on there, or some of the people that go there.
Well, it's in Mooresville, and it's across from the bank, practically, and it's always full of veterans, or just about all the time. And it's a very nice place to go and to meet people who have been involved in the same thing you were involved in, and learn to know each other and appreciate each other, I think. I enjoy it now that I've gotten started.
Do they meet on or come there on a special day of the week or time, or?
Now that I don't know. We go on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think they have a one day a week that they set aside for the veterans. I think that's Thursday mornings.
Thursday?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry and I always go on Tuesday because he's off on Monday and Tuesday.
Well, there are a lot of people who stop by that go on certain days of the week,
Yeah.
but they try to set aside, I think, Thursday mornings for the veterans, and
Yeah.
Richard has free coffee for all the veterans that come in the morning.
Well, I didn't know all the details about it, but like I say, J.D., I think he went on Tuesdays.
Did he?
I think he did. But, of course, Jerry's off on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday. And that's when we get out running around there.
When you go into the coffee shop, have you met people who were in the service the same time you were, or people that you knew, or?
Haven't met a person that I knew.
So no one from this area went in with you? Were there other women from this area that went in the same
No.
time you went in? Or?
No, not that I know of.
So you were a real pioneer in that.
Yeah, I was a go-getter, wasn't I? No, I think I just wanted to get out of school. I was getting kind of bored with it.
Now, you've seen a lot of changes in Mooresville since you were born here, brought up here, and today.
Oh, yeah.
What are the biggest changes that you see?
Well, I see. When I was growing up, they had a Rayless store, which they don't have anymore.
I'm sorry.
Rayless. They had Rose's Dime Store, which they have no longer. And I don't know. There were several little shops. Now, Macs are no longer there, are they? I don't think. And, of course, the boys no longer have a store in Mooresville, grocery store. And they started out, by the way, in one of Mr. Mack's stores downtown.
When you say the boys, who do you mean?
I mean, Jerry and Don. What was I talking about?
Was this the grocery store?
Yes.
So you're talking about your brothers.
Yeah.
Which brothers?
Bill and Brother Willis.
And Bill's name is also known as Paul.
Paul.
Yeah.
That's his name. We just called Granddaddy nicknamed him Kaiser Bill, and he always carried it with him.
Now, I understand that they learned a little bit about, from what you said, they learned a little bit about the grocery business from someplace in Lincolnton?
No. Now, Brother Willis had well, he worked at Rose's for a while, and then he decided to work for A&P. A&P had a store there, and he worked for them and got enough training. They sent him to Morganton, I believe it was.
Morganton, okay.
To take training as an assistant manager. And when he came back, the Macs offered him the store next door to them for a full year free to open a grocery store. And he run A&P out of business. He moved into that store, and then he built a store down on the corner of
Broad Street in McClellan.
Yeah,
And that was the first Teeter store.
that was the first Teeter store, really. And then he moved into the shopping center down on Main Street there, coming out this way.
Do you recall about what year that was that he opened the store on North Main Street that the Max offered him the space?
No, I don't. But I'm sure Carol and them would know that.
Well, if Willis was the one that started it, and then soon after that his brother
Joined him.
joined him.
And then when they opened the store down on Broad Street, they went into it together. And then they've stayed together, of course, thereafter. And I don't know, there is still a Harris Teeter down at Cornelius. I don't know why we don't have one in Mooresville, but they just let it go. And
They have one out on 150 now. I mean, on Williamson Road now.
do you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know. I lost track of it.
And they're opening a lot of new stores in the area, so they're definitely still growing.
Really? They do have the Harris Teeter? And then in there? Well, I didn't know, of course.
There's another one opening up on Highway 150, one on 73, Highway 73. So even in this area, there's still a lot of growth.
Well, good.
In stores.
Well, they put a lot of effort and a lot of time in on that store, getting it started.
Sounds like their names are going to be around for a long time.
And they worked hard. They were good boys. And I hope they were well respected all over everywhere.
Anything else?
Now, let me ask you another question. You mentioned where they built their first store down on the corner of South Broad Street and West McClellan. Do you remember what that lot was or anything that it was used for before they opened that store? Let me tell you what I'm getting at. When I was a youngster growing up in Mooresville, I guess once a year or so when the carnival or the fair came to town, at one time they used to put their tents and rides and things up on that lot. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Okay.
Anything else?
Anything else in particular that you remember, or any stories, or anything that you'd like to tell us?
No, not right offhand.
Well, I think then we'll end this interview, and we want to thank you again for talking. We just appreciate your time.
Well, you just